Hi, in this lecture we will talk about the schema used in this course. But first, let's start with what is a schema. We can think of a schema as a user in our database. In Oracle database, since each user must have a schema, we can consider schemas as users. But technically, schemas are the collections of objects for each user in the Oracle database. All the objects of a single user are collected under a logical set schema. Every user has objects under their schemas, and a user does not have anything more than their schema has. Besides, a user can have only one schema, so we simply call schemas as users. So what is HR schema? HR, which is the abbreviation of human resources, is the schema that we will do our practices on, is also a user and a schema in our database which is created before by Oracle. This schema is the most well-known and most commonly used test schema in Oracle database trainings, because this one is prepared with lots of data just like how the companies do. Like the other schemas, this schema has some objects like tables, views, triggers, constraints, etc. that we are going to use most of them in our lessons. Alright, of course, we will see almost all the objects in this schema in our course, but for now, the most important objects of it are the tables. Great, now let's look at the tables in HR schema and the relations between them. This kind of schema design is called as Entity Relationship Diagram, shortly abbreviated as ER diagram. This diagram shows the tables and the relationships between them. Alright, we can say that relational database management systems are formed of tables like these. These tables are stored as tabular forms like the Excel spreadsheets. I have shown you examples of it in the previous lectures. These capital texts are the names of the tables. Tables are formed of columns, and these lowercase names are the names of the columns of tables. As I said before, HR stands for Human Resources. It has 7 tables. They are employees, departments, locations, countries, regions, job history, and jobs tables. Actually, you can easily understand what is there in these tables from their names. But now I will explain them in basic. But you will understand much better when we see all the data in them in our further lectures. The base table of the schema is employees table. Since this schema is human resources schema, all the tables in them are related with the employees. So the base table is employees. This table has the base information about the employees like employee IDs, first names, last names, emails, etc. All these fields represents the columns of that table. So employee ID is a column, first name is another column, etc. You see some of these columns written as blue. These are colored with blue because they are the primary keys. You will see the primary keys in details in further lectures in this course, but for now I can say that primary keys are the IDs of each record and they are unique. With these columns, we will be sure that we store a data for only once. But here we think primary keys as the columns that we establish connections with the other tables. If you look at the department ID column in employees table, and if we look at the department ID column in departments table, we will simply understand that we establish the relations between these two tables with using these columns. Okay, no need to go deeper for primary keys. So let's continue with explaining the tables. The second table is departments table. This table has the data of the departments. We have the department ID column as the primary key here, then department name, manager ID, location ID columns. Assume that we have a department here with the ID of 100 and the name of this department is called as executive. If we set the department ID column of employees table as 102, this means that employee works in the department with the ID of 100. and in the departments table, we can understand that that department is the executive department. As you can see, it is simple actually. The next table is locations. Each department must have a location, and departments and locations tables are connected to each other with the location ID columns. The other columns of locations are street address, postal code, city, state province, and country ID columns. The next table is the countries table. I will not explain all the connections of each table between each other, but you can see that these dashed lines represent the connections of the tables among each other. And these three angular lines, which looks like a bird foot, represent one-to-many relationships. Actually, I did not explain relation types yet, but for now I can say that this is called as one-to-many relationship. That means, for example, in here, there can be many locations using a single ID of countries. I mean, let's say that if one of the country ID is 50, for example, there can be one or many locations whose country ID is set to 50. Actually, we saw that in the previous lectures. Employees table have multiple same department IDs. You will understand better when you see the examples in the further lectures. The next table is regions. This table simply has the regions of countries. The next table is jobs table. This table has the definitions of jobs and minimum and maximum salaries of that specific job. The last table is job history table. This table has the history of employees in their jobs. An employee can work in different jobs, and all this history is stored in this table. This might be complicated for you for now, but throughout the course, you will understand every details of the subjects what I mentioned. So this is the end of HR user schema lesson. See you in the next lectures.